everybody? What's wrong with the strength? Tuesday, it's still just Tuesday. Is it because of the festival? No, tell me one thing. Is it like you're going back to your school days? October holidays. October holidays, sir. 20 days we used to have holidays. Sorry? 10 days. So is it a warning for me that 10 days we will not be there? See, anyways, we are almost in the last part of our course now. Again, you'll have to understand. Hibernate, hardly another 4-5 days, and then we'll be done with spring as well. So make sure you don't run away for your October holidays. Make sure you finish the course. Right, anyways, what were we discussing in yesterday's session? Sorry? One-to-one unidirectional mapping is something that we were discussing. What do you mean by one-to-one unidirectional mapping? It is a mapping where one row of one table is mapped with another row in another table. So if you remember yesterday, I had taken an example where I told I have two different tables. So this was my first table called as student table, and I had one more table called as the student detail table. I had two different tables, student table and student detail table. So I was trying to create some data for student yes, and also student details SD. And then I was trying to write a program to set or to save student. So when I tried to save the student object into the table, what was happening? Sir, student object was getting saved in the table. Along with that, student detail object information was also saved. Will you agree with me? In the same way, when I tried to fetch data also, I showed it to you yesterday. When I try to fetch the student data, I will be able to get the student information and also the student table information. Both these table information I was able to get. Why? Because your student table is mapped with student data table. Your student table is mapped with student data table. That is the reason whenever you try to insert student data or student information, student detail will also get inserted. Whenever you try to fetch a student information, student detail information also you are going to fetch. I hope you are able to understand this. Hello? Right. So now the next question that I have is on the other side, when I try to insert student detail, was there any possibility to insert the student information? No. Why? Because sir, student detail is a table. It is not mapped to student, sir. Will you agree with me? Only the student table is mapped to student detail. Student detail is not mapped to student. I hope you are able to understand this. This, whatever we have written yesterday, it is called as unidirectional mapping. It is called as unidirectional Directional mapping. Why is it unidirectional mapping? Because only student table is mapped with student detail. Now I want to do the student detail table to be mapped with student. If student detail is also mapped to the student table, then such a mapping is called as bidirectional mapping. It is called as bidirectional mapping. If it is only mapped from one table to another, it is called as unidirectional mapping. If both the tables are mapped, it is called as bidirectional mapping. So, what are the types of mappings that I have? See, one thing you need to understand is I have one-to-one mapping. Then I have something called as one-to-many, and they also tell it as many-to-one mapping. One-to-many or many-to-one mapping. And I also have something called as many-to-many mapping. And while you are trying to understand this, one thing I need to understand is in one-to-one mapping, I have unidirectional one-to-one, bidirectional one-to-one. In the same way, here also we will include unidirectional and bidirectional one-to-one mappings, or one-to-many or many-to-one mappings. Is it clear? Hello? So now, what is that I want to do, sir? I want to write a program for one-to-one bidirectional mapping. I want to write the program for one-to-one bidirectional mapping. See, before I write the program for one-to-one bidirectional mapping, if I just have to tell you, for yesterday's program, if I add some 4 or 5 lines, I will be able to get one-to-one bidirectional mapping. But what I want to do is, I want to rewrite the program from first so that you will be familiar with the steps. So later from one-to-many or many-to-one bidirectional mapping and all of it, there only in the program I will make the changes. Right? So can we try it? Can we try one-to-one bidirectional mapping? Yes. So tell me, in order to start off writing one-to-one bidirectional mapping, from where should I write the code, or from where should I start the program from? Sir, the first thing that you need to do now is first and foremost, create one project, sir. I need to start creating a project right from there. Okay. So, tell me here, I will say I have a new Maven project. I'll say a simple project next, com.hib, artifact ID 1-to-1 bidirectional I will write, jar packaging, then I will tell it here as finish. So you can see I have a project called as 1-to-1 bidirectional mapping. I'll go to the pom.xml. In the pom.xml, I need to include the dependencies. So I will say I'm going to use an tag called as the dependencies tag. What are the dependencies that I need? Hibernate core and MySQL dependency. From one of my old projects I'm going to get it. So you can see Hibernate core and MySQL dependency. I have copied it. I will paste them here. I will just save it. I'll right click on my project. I will say it as Maven update project, so that if anything has to be downloaded, it will download. Okay, sir, I have added the dependencies. Yes or no? Now, what is the next file? I need the Hibernate configuration.xml file. I will create a new other type of file which I will call it as XML file. What is the name? I will say it as hibernate.cfg.xml. So I have created the Hibernate cfg.xml file. I'll go to one of the old projects. I will copy the Hibernate cfg.xml file. I will copy it. I will come back. I will paste it here. So you can see I have the Hibernate cfg.xml. So if you remember yesterday, one additional property I had added. What was it? HBM2DDL. You remember? Yes. Why do I need HBM2DDL? To make sure whenever any table or column has to be added, my Hibernate will do it on its own. I need not worry. What was the project name that I wrote yesterday? I don't find that project here. What was the project name? Any idea? September B1. No, September JEE was the database name. Student, is it? I don't have student also. Was it in a different workspace? Alright, so I have it here, student.xml. I'll copy this property, which is nothing but hbm2ddl.auto. I have written it as update. So I will add this here. So I am dealing with a database called as September JEE only. Yes, I did not create any new database. In that I am dealing with a table called as the student table, right? So what I will do is I will now create an entity class. So I will now right click class, I will call it as a student, and package I will call it as com.hib.entity. So student is an entity class. Similarly, one more entity class I will have called as student details. Student details, DETAILS. Okay. So two different classes I have. See what has to go inside the student class. You already know it. I will have all the variables matching to the column names that I want to create. I will map them by using a column annotation. I'll map this student class to the table by using a table annotation. I will say student is an entity by saying it is an @entity, right? So all that I will not write. I will just maybe go back to the previous project. I will copy it from here. I will come to the new project. Here I am going to paste it, right? So I guess I pasted it in student detail. I'll paste it in student now. So you can see I have created it inside a student student class. I have added all of it. Now in the same way, I'll go to the student detail, select everything, copy, come back, come to student detail class. I will paste it here. I will save it. So I have two different classes here. One is a student class and the other one is a student detail class. So tell me, in the student class, what is that I have done? I have told boss student detail. Student detail is a class to which I am trying to map one to one. I have told here as I am trying to map one to one. While I am doing this one to one mapping, I am saying cascade type is equal to cascade type dot all, and then I have written here as join column is SD ID. Now what do I want to do? I want to do a reverse mapping also, sir, which is nothing but student detail should also be mapped to the student, sir. Will you agree with me? Hello? In order to do it, I will go to the student details.java. Sir, in student details.java, what is that we are going to do? See, already I have some variables which are mapped to the column names in the table. Will you agree with me? Already I have some variables which are mapped to the column names in the table. Now what I will do is I will say in the student detail, boss, student detail has to be mapped with the student. So I will create a private student type student variable. Just like how in student class I have created a reference for student details. Just like in the student class how I have created a reference for student details, in the same way in student detail class I have created a reference for student. I hope you are able to understand this. Once I do this, what do I want to say, sir? Tell me student detail and student, what is the mapping that you have? From student to student detail it is 1 to 1, sir. From student detail to student, one detail belongs to one student only. Will you agree with me? So it is again 1 to 1 mapping. Will you agree? So I will say here as @1 to 1 mapping. I will import 1 to 1 annotation. I will say, boss, the mapping here is 1 to 1. While I am doing this 1 to 1 mapping, I will have to write by saying, boss, I have one column which I want to map. I have one column which I want to map. So for that I will say join column, join column. What is the join column? Maybe I will say the name of the join column is map it by SID. What is SID? The student ID SID. Student ID SID. I hope you are able to understand this. Hello? Sir, if I write this much, will I be able to execute it? Sir, let us try to see if I will be able to execute this if I write this much. So for this, what I will do is I will now create a main method. So I will right click on my project. I will tell it as a new class, com.hib.main. The name of the class I will write it as the main class. I will ask for a main method. In the main class now, I will create one student object. So tell me, if I am creating a student object, don't you feel for student detail, I need to set a student? Just like how I was doing yesterday. Student object I created, student detail object I created, student detail I set it into student. In the same way now, student object I need to set it into student detail. So I need a setter and getter for student inside the student detail class. So I will right click, I will say source, right click source, getters and setters for the student I am going to generate. So you can see I have a get student and set student created. Right. Now I will try to create a student object first. So I will say student type S is equal to new student, and the name, email and mobile number for a student I need to set. Name I will say it as Saurav, email saurav@gmail.com, and mobile number, some mobile number I am going to set. Right? Name, email and mobile number I have created. Now the next thing is student detail I want. For student detail, I will say student details type SD is equals to new student details, and while I am creating the student details, I will set the area, city and pin code. So I will say area is maybe some MG road, then city I'll set it as Kolkata, and then pin code, some pin code I am setting. Okay, all right sir, now you have created the student object, student detail object you have created. What do I want to do now? See, in yesterday's program I was taking student detail, setting it inside student. Yes or no? I was taking student detail, setting it inside student. But today I want to do the reverse of it. Why? Because I have written a code for bidirectional mapping. I have written a code for bidirectional mapping. So I will take the student, set it into my student detail. So for this I will say SD dot set student. Student, yes, I am setting it. I hope you are able to understand this. Once I have set the student, yes, what do I want to do, sir? If you ask me, I will try to insert student detail. I will try to insert student detail. If I want to insert student detail, what do I want? Session I want, sir. Without session, how will I insert? Will you agree with me? So can I create that session? So let me go into my main method here. I will say session type session is equals to new configuration dot configure, just a second, import configuration Hibernate session. Okay, new configuration dot configure. Why is it not giving me any suggestion? New configuration dot change type of session. Okay, configuration dot why no suggestion? Spelling mistake, huh? Re-import it properly. Oh, I have imported configuration from a different package. So I'll have to import it from org hibernate cfg dot configuration. New configuration dot configure dot add annotated class. What is the annotated class? Student dot class dot annotated class as student details dot class. So you can see here I am going to write it as new configuration dot configure, add annotated class student class, then add annotated class student details class. Now I will say dot build session factory dot open session. This is going to give me a session which I will store it inside a session type session. Now I will import the session from org hibernate session. I am going to import the session from org hibernate session. Is this clear? Now that I have this session, I will simply write here by saying session dot save. What do I want to save? I want to save ESD. Save or persist you can use. I will say session dot save ESD. Now I will say system dot out dot println data save. I will write it as system dot out dot println data save. So tell me one thing. Now how did I try to perform the mapping? How is that I am trying to perform the mapping? I'm trying to write a bidirectional mapping for it, where I am saying I will take the data from student details, I will insert student details, so student information should also be inserted. That is what I am expecting. So can I try to run this code and see if I insert the student details, whether student information will be inserted or no? Let me just save my code. Sorry. Let me just save my code. I will now try to run my code. So it says data saved, right? But before data being saved, you can see some alterations, some changes would have taken place in the table. Why? Sir, yesterday, if you remember, I had student table, student detail table. How did you understand which student detail is mapped to student? Sir, in student table, I created one column called as SDID column. Sir, you remember? I was saying, boss, this is student detail. This SDID is going to give you the student detail information. Now, since I can also perform the bidirectional mapping, when I am at the student detail, I need to see which student detail is this. How will I see? For that also one column has to be added. So that is the reason, if you remember in the code also, I wrote it here by saying map by join column as SID. What is this join column as SID? It means that I am going to join one more column where SID will be mapped to the student information. So you can see now what does the code say. So alter table student details, it is adding a column called as SID because I asked it to add. Then alter table student details, drop index, some internal dropping and all that it would have done. Then alter table student details, add constraint unique for SID, because one-to-one mapping, yesterday also I told you, one detail should only be mapped to one unique student. I hope you are able to understand this. Two students cannot have the same detail. That is the reason it is saying, boss, it is a unique constraint. Then it is saying if SID is a foreign key for student table SID. I hope you are able to understand. Then it has got a next value. It has told it is going to update the student detail. Everything is okay. Anywhere, did it insert the student information? Then what happened to this information? Let me see what is happening in the table. What is happening in the table? Let me see it here. So, what is the table? I guess it was September JEE. In the September JEE, if I go to the tables, I had student detail. In student detail, did information get inserted? No. In student, did information get inserted? No. Why? I did not write the commit. So let me go back and write the commit here. I will go to the main method. I will say it as session dot, okay, first of all, I will begin a session. So I will say session dot begin transaction, and now I will say session dot get transaction dot commit. I hope you are able to understand this. Now I will run my code. So once if I run the code, there is some problem. What does it say? It says data is saved, but data is saved for student details, but student information is not saved. Why? Because it says persistence instance references are unsaved transient instance of com.hibernate.entity.student. Save the transient instance before flushing. So what it is saying is, boss, you are trying to write some mapping, but there is a problem. You are not able to save the instance before it is being mapped or before it is flushing. Please save the instance. So let me see what is happening in the table. So in the student table, Is there any information inserted? No. If I go to the student detail, is any information inserted? No. So what is the problem here? One thing that you need to understand is, tell me, in the student class, if you just have a look at the student class, you have performed one-to-one mapping. Will you agree with me? But one small issue that you need to understand is, while you are performing this one-to-one mapping, will you agree with me, in student detail, already you have mapped the student object? Yes or no? How did you map the student object in student detail? Sir, see here, sir, I have mapped it by using one reference called as the student. I have mapped it by using a reference called as the student. Will you agree with me? Hello? So what I will do here is, I will say, boss, anyways, in the student detail, I have already mapped by saying it as student. That information I need to write it inside my student class. That information I need to write it inside my student class. How will I write this information inside my student class? Sir, I will go to one-to-one mapping. Here, before I say cascade type and all of it, I will just add a comma. I will say mapped by. How is this student information already mapped? It is mapped by using a reference called as student. And now if you want, you can remove away this column. I mean, whatever I had written it as yes ID, I can now remove away it. So now I am saying @one-to-one mapping, and I am going to map it by using student. If you remove it, what will happen? If I keep it, what will happen? We will see. Right? So now I will just save it. Now I will try to run my code. I will just save it. I will run my code again. Same problem. Persistence. Transient object exception. Save the transient instance before flushing. Why is that giving me a problem? I'll change it to persist and see if there is some issue. MG Road, Kolkata is what I'm using anyways. Refresh. Data is not getting inserted. September JE, correct. It is mapped to student. This is mapped to student details. Student details, correct. It is saying do flush. Let me just check this. Give me a minute. Cascade type dot all, did I not write? Oh, one-to-one, I guess I did not write the cascade type dot all. Okay. So I will write here as cascade is equal to cascade type dot all operations. Now let me go to the main method, rerun. So you can see here, it is inserting the student also, and it is inserting student details also. See, one thing is, while you are using annotations, you may get carried away because there will be so many annotations that you will be dealing with. So you can see, just because I did not write cascade is equal to cascade type dot all, I was not able to perform the insertion operation. Anyways, now if I go to the database, if I try to go to the student table, you can see Saurav's information is added, and if I go to the student details, here student detail is also added, but one thing is here SID is mapped to the student table, but on the student table there is no mapping for the details. There is no mapping for the details. So in case what will happen if I try to run a fetch query, can we see? If I try to get the student information, what will happen? Let me see. So for this, let me comment this statements, and I will simply write here as session dot get. What do I want to get? I want to get student dot class comma. What was the ID? 102. Is it? Saurav's information was 102. So let me assume I am going to get the details of Saurav. So if I run my code, I am interested to see whether I will be only able to get name, email, mobile number, or will I be able to get the area, city, pin code also. I am able to get all the information. Just that it is not indicated in that table, but you can be able to perform both the operations. I hope you are able to understand this. So let me try to print it and see. If you want, once you have the information, I will say it as store it inside student yes. So I guess student yes was already created. I will comment student and student detail objects also. Student yes, I will simply say here as system.out.println yes dot get SID, then append yes dot get name, then append some space, yes dot get email, I will say yes dot get email, then I will append some space and I will say yes dot get mobile number. So this is something that I am going to get, and apart from this, what other information I want is I want to bring the details inside the student details information. So I will say here as a student details type SD is equals to s dot get student details. I will store it inside student details. Using SD I will try to print it now, where I will say SD dot get SD ID, then I will append some space, then I will say s dot get SD dot get area, append some space, SD dot get city, append some space, and then I will say SD dot get pin code. This is the information that I am trying to print for which student? With a student having an ID as 102. So in case if I now run my code, there are errors. Where? Okay. I don't want to set this anyways, I will remove it. Now I will rerun my code. So you can see I have brought the details of Saurav and also his address details as well. Is this clear? Hello? Any confusion here? Yes, please. Any confusion? Sir, what if I try to bring student details, sir? You have brought student information. I will get student detail information, sir. Very simple. I will go here and I will write the same thing. I will say get student details dot class. What is the ID? Student detail ID is 202. I will try to get. I'll try to get the information for student detail ID 202 and I will try to store it inside student details SD. I'll try to store it inside student details SD. So once I have student details SD, all this information I will try to print it first, which is nothing but the student detail information completely I will print, and then just like how I use the student information to bring the student detail, in the same way I will say student detail dot get student, and whatever student I am going to get, I will be storing it inside student yes. Can I write it like this? Yes. Once I have stored it inside student yes, I am trying to print the name of the student, email, mobile number, etc. Let me now just try to save it. I will try to run my code, and once if I try to run my code, you can see here I was able to get the address and the student details by using what information? Student details. Yesterday was I able to get it? Why? Sir, yesterday we did a unidirectional mapping for one-to-one mapping. But today it is one-to-one bidirectional mapping. I hope you are able to understand the difference between one-to-one unidirectional mapping and one-to-one bidirectional mapping. Any confusion till here? Hello? Any confusion till here? Sure? Yes? Sure? Okay. Now, what is the next thing that we are going to do? Maybe for the same program, I will add one more table. For the same program, what I will do, I will add one more table. What is this table going to do, sir? See, tell me now, as of now, what is the code that I have? Or forget about the code, what are the tables that I have? Can you tell me? Sir, as of now, there is one table called as student. Right? There is one table called as student, and then I also have another table called as student details. Will you agree with me? Hello? Right. So let's take an example of TAP Academy. If a student takes an admission, what is the first thing that we will do is we will collect the student information, student details. We will store some student information here, student details, we will store it in another table. And then we also have to decide which are the courses that should be given to the student. Maybe I will call it as course, but it is basically what are the various subjects or technologies that you need. You need HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java or SQL. There are so many technologies that you need. Yes or no? So what I will do is along with all of this, I want to create one more table called as the course table. What do I want to do? I want to create one more table called as the course table. What is this course table, sir? I now want to say what courses should be given to each student. I will decide and I will say which course has to be given to each student. I hope you are able to understand this. Yes or no? So how will I represent this? See, assume that there is one student who is going to take an admission. I will say the ID will be auto generated anyways. I will say XYZ is the name. Email ID I will collect xyz at gmail.com. Then mobile number, some mobile number I have collected. Then the area I would have collected it as BTM Bangalore 560076 I would have collected. And now I want to say, for this particular student, I want to give one is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I want to give HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And not just this. I will also say, boss, while I am giving HTML, CSS and JavaScript for this student, while I am giving HTML, CSS and JavaScript for the student, maybe each subject I will also set a number of hours. HTML is having 30 hours. CSS is having HTML is having, I will say, nobody will teach HTML for 30 hours again, okay. 10 hours, 20 hours and 30 hours is what I would mention, right. Let's assume this is the information that I now want to map. I hope you are able to understand what is that I am thinking about. Yes. So in case if I have to map this, tell me one thing. If you take the student, will one student be given one subject, or one student will be given multiple subjects? If I say there is one student XYZ, will you agree with me, this student XYZ is given HTML also, is given CSS also, is given JavaScript also. One row in one table, is it mapped to one row in course table? No sir, it is mapped to many rows in course table. Will you agree with me? One row in one table is mapped with many rows in another table. This is only called as one to many. So this relationship between your student and your course is one to many, whereas student and student detail, it is one to one. I hope you are able to understand this. So now what I want to do is I want to write a program such that when I write the program, one row in one table should be mapped with one row in another table, and also one row in one table should be mapped with many rows in another table. I hope you are able to understand this. Yes. So now I want you to tell me, in order to achieve this, what is the next thing that I need? What is the next thing that I have to do here? Yes, what is the next thing that I have to do here? Sorry? Sir, course entity class. Will you agree with me? Because there is a table, I mean, if there has to be a table, there should be an entity class. Because my Hibernate will look at the entity class and only create the course table. Will you agree with me? Let me create the entity class here for the table called as the course table. So I will now this time make changes in the same application. I will not create a new project now. Going ahead, anything that I want to do, I will be making changes in the same project. I will not create it as a new project. I hope you are able to understand this. Alright. Tell me now, what is that I need? I need one new entity class. So I will go to my project one-to-one bidirectional, and I will also add a new entity class. What is the name of the class? Course or courses, whatever you want you can create. So I will say there is a class called as the course class. There is a class called as the course class. What do you want inside this course class, sir? I will say, boss, course is an entity. What do you mean by course is an entity? Hello, what do you mean by course is an entity? It means that I have one table, course is representing that table. What is the table name I need to write? I will say at the rate table name is equal to course. So I am saying the name of the table is course. I will import it from Jakarta persistence table, and also entity I have imported. Okay, sir. Now what is there inside this course table? I will say I have integer type CID, then string type name, and integer type hours. These are the three information: CID, name, and hours. Now I will say CID, all these are private variables. So I will write it as private for all of them, and once I have declared them as private, I need to bring setters and getters, constructors, everything. So I'll right click, I'll say source, generate getters and setters, select all, generate. Right click, source, generate a constructor using the fields, one constructor using all the fields, one constructor without ID, because ID I will make it as auto generated, and then one constructor which is a zero parameterized constructor. See, toString method I will anyways not override, because anyways I am only writing the message there. System.out.println yes dot get ID, get name, I am only writing. Why should I simply override the toString method, and anyways I will not use it. Right. Okay, sir. You have got this information. What next? I need to now mention all the column names as well. Columns have to be mapped. So in order to map the column, I will say, boss, CID is mapped to one column. What is the column to which CID is mapped? It is mapped to a column called as CID. In the same way, I will just copy this. I will paste it below, and I will say it is mapped to name and it is mapped to hours. CID, name, and hours. These are the column names. Right, sir? Column names I have, but CID, it is a primary key and it has to be an auto-generated value. How will I make it as a primary key? I will say at the rate ID, I will import ID, and then I will say at the rate generated value, and while I am saying it as generated value, I need to tell the generation, strategy, and strategy is nothing but generation type dot auto generated value is what I am trying to tell here. Is this clear? Hello? Right, sir. Now I have written this. What next? Now I need to talk about the one-to-many mapping. One-to-many. See, I am only doing unidirectional mapping here. I am not doing a bidirectional mapping here. So it is one-to-many unidirectional mapping. One-to-many unidirectional mapping. How will I do a one-to-many unidirectional mapping, sir? Very simple. I will go to the student table or the student class. Will you agree with me? Student has to be mapped to the courses now. Hello? Student has to be mapped to the courses. Now assume that there is one student who has enrolled at TAP Academy. Now I will tell the student, boss, you are going to get Java, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, You will also get SQL, aptitude, soft skills, all this you will get. Which means student has to store everything somewhere. Hello? Will you agree with me that the student has to store all of this information somewhere? Where will the student store it, sir? Hello? Where will the student store it? Does he know how many subjects he is going to observe? Not very clear, sir. If he knew, I could have created an array. Since the number is not known, I will create an array list or a list or any collection class. Can I do it? Tell me, one student has attended Java or one student has attended HTML. We will again say, from tomorrow you will have HTML classes. You will be like, sir, already once I have learnt HTML, sir. One time HTML is over, sir. One more time, why should I learn, sir? Which means, tell me, whatever the courses that you are going to get, do you want a repetition? Do you want repetition? Repetition if you don't want. If I create a list, what will happen in a list? List will allow duplicates, sir. Is there anything that will not allow duplicates? Set will not allow duplicates, sir. Can I create a set here in that case? So I will say, boss, to store the courses in the student, to store the courses in the student, what I am going to do is I will create a new hash set. I will create a new hash set. What is this hash set? I mean, maybe I will store it inside a name called as course or courses, whatever you want you can call it. Whatever you want you can call it. Alright. Okay, sir, I have courses with me. Now, what next? What is courses? Courses is of type hash set. Did I create this variable courses anywhere? No. Hash set. So I will import hash set now. What is the information that I will be storing inside the hash set? Sir, I will be storing information related to the object called as course object, sir. Will you agree with me? So I will write a generic for my hash set where I will say, boss, I am going to store course. I am going to store course. So I have created a hash set for courses by using a hash set of courses, or by using a set called as courses. Tell me, what is this courses now? What is it actually indicating now? What is this courses indicating? What is student detail indicating? That the student class, whatever the student class that I have, it is one-to-one mapped with student detail, which means one student has one student detail. Will you agree with me? One student has one student detail. I hope you are able to understand this. One student has one student detail. In the same way, why did I create this courses as a hash set now? One student has many courses, sir. Will you agree with me? One student has many courses, or in other words, one student is mapped to many courses. Will you agree with me? In other words, it is one to many mapping. Will you agree with me? It is one to many mapping. In order to mention this, I will say @ 1 to many mapping is what I am going to do. I will import one to many here. You can see I have imported it from Jakarta persistence dot one to many. Okay, sir. One to many you have imported. What is that you should write? See, previously I got a problem without adding it. What is it? Cascade is equal to cascade type dot all. So I will say cascade is equal to cascade type dot all. And one more thing I will add here is I will add at the rate join column, and the join column name I will write it here. And what is the join column name? CID I will write. One thing, is it CID? SID? Okay. I will write here as CID as my join column. Right? So let me try to execute this and see if I have some error. I will make some slight changes to it. Right? Anyways, so now if you understand, I will create a student table. I will create a student detail table. I will create a student table, student detail table. And now for the student, I will set student details by saying s dot set student details as SD. So maybe student name I will write it here as Dhoni, and I will write it here as dhoni@gmail.com. All sevens I will write, okay. Some MG road in Ranchi. And see, every city will have a MG road apparently, willingly or unwillingly, anyways. So I have created a student object, student detail object I have created. So student detail I have set it to student. What is the next thing that I need to do? Sir, course object you should create. You should set courses to students, sir. Will you agree with me? So I will create course objects here. I just want you to observe. So I will say course C1 is equal to new course, and while I am creating this course object, I will say, boss, the course name is HTML with number of hours as 10 hours. Right? In the same way, I will create multiple courses, C2, C3, here I will say it as CSS, and here I will say it as JavaScript. CSS I will write it for 15 hours, and JavaScript I will write it for 30 hours. Is it clear? I have created 3 different courses now. I have created 3 different courses. Tell me, what do I want to do with each of these courses? Sorry? Sir, these courses should be set to the student. Will you agree with me? I should set course C1 into student, course C2 into student, course C3 into student. But tell me, can I directly set courses into student? If you remember, as of now, if this is my student object, inside my student object, I have name, email, mobile number, then I have student details, which is a reference for a student detail object. Will you agree with me? Along with this, what else do I have? Freshly I created, sir, there is one set, and for this set I have a reference called as courses. I need to say, boss, whatever this course I have, I need to go inside the student, I have to set it to course. I hope you are able to understand this. How will I get these courses? In order to get these courses, I would have written a method called as getCourses method. As of now I did not write it, I will add it now. I hope you are able to understand. So I will go to the student.java. Here I will say, boss, hash set type courses I have, right click, source, generate getters and setters. So you can see courses, I am going to generate it. I will now just save it. I will go to the main method. Once I have created all these objects, see, I will comment these statements, they will simply keep giving me errors. All the courses are created. Where do I want to set this course into? In the student object inside courses, sir. Will you agree with me? So I will say yes dot get, sorry, yes dot get courses. What will I get? I will get a set. Into this set I want to add C1. Into this set I want to add C1. How will I add it? Yes dot get courses dot add C1. Tell me, for the student only course 1 do I have to give? All 3 courses I need to give, sir. So I will copy this. I will paste it below. Will they not stop? Thank God. Okay. So tell me, what did I do here? I went into the student. I got access to the courses. I have got, all right. So I have got access to the courses. I have added the data into these courses. C1, C2, C3. Now what do I want to do? Everything is ready with me. Student detail also I have created. MG Road, Ranchi and some pin code. MG Road, Ranchi and some pin code I have also created. Alright. So the entire details is now ready. What do I want to do with this student detail now? Save it, sir. That's all. So in order to save it, I will come down below. Alright. So in order to save it, I have told here was session.begin transaction, session.persist, and then data saved is something that I am trying to display. But is everything clear? Everything correct? Did I miss out anything? Sorry? Did I miss out anything? Annotated class for courses did I add? I did not add the annotated class for courses. I need to add it. So I will say here as dot add annotated class for course dot class. I hope it is clear. Can I try to execute this code now? Right. So now in case if I just save it and if I try to run my code, some problem. So let me see what is happening here. Could not set value for type org hibernate dot collection dot spi persistent set courses. So setter, I am not able to set it. Oh, I did not set the courses, is it? Alright, I'll do one thing in that case. Here I will create a hash set, hs.add I will call, and this hash set I will set, hs I will call. I'll create a hash set called as hs. So I will say here as s dot set courses of hs. I'll say s dot set courses of hs. Now let me try to execute this. Save it. Run my code. Same problem. What is happening? Let me just go to the table first. Student detail, student. Courses is not created also. No, refresh. It should be created. Courses is created, but data is not added anywhere. Employee data. Oh, sorry. Student data is not added. Student details, data is not added. Exception in the thread. Illegal argument exception cannot set percent set. Why is this? 1 second. In many to 1. Sorry, it is 1 to many, right? In 1 to many. So change the collection type. To ensure that your student entity matches with Hibernate is trying to set, if you are using one to many, the collection should ideally be a set. Okay, so it is basically because I have written it here as a hash set, it is expecting to be a set. So I will write here as a private set. I will try to import set. So here I will have to change it. Here also I will change it. So only thing is, it is expecting that it should be a set. It should not be of any child type. It should be a set type only. Let me try to re-execute this. I'll just save my code. Run my code. So now you can see data has got saved. All right. So first thing, it is trying to bring the student sequence because it has to increment. Then it is updated student sequence. Then it is writing all of this. So let me see if data is really updated in the table. So I'll go to the student table first. Student table not updated. Oh, commit method. Why is that I'm forgetting this? I've begun the transaction, but I haven't committed the transaction. So session dot get transaction dot commit, COMIT. Okay. I'll now just save it, rerun my code, and now there is some problem. So you can see it is inserting into student, inserting into course, but there is some foreign key problem. Anyways, let me see what has happened till now. Nothing has got updated. What is the problem? So it is saying foreign key CID is a problem. Foreign key CID. Let me write it here. Where is it? Okay, so I will write S underscore ID instead of CID. Go back to the main method, rerun my code. Cannot add. See, it is trying to insert the course 1. Second course it is trying to insert. There is some problem. Let me do this. It looks like you are encountering a SQL integrity constraint violation due to a foreign key constraint failure. See, basically what it is trying to do is it is trying to get some information of a student ID which is not available. That is the reason it says it is a constraint problem. Where is the student sequence? Student sequence, student detail sequence, course sequence. Check foreign key relationship, ensure that CID value you are trying to insert into the course table exists in the student table as SID. If the CID is meant to refer to the course ID, you must need to check that the foreign key relationship are correctly defined. Just a second. I'll give off both these classes, Control C. Course class, Control A, Control C. So the foreign key mapping ensure course entity correctly references the student entity with foreign key SID. Cascade type all I have written, right? In student did I not write? In student 1 to many I have written it. So it is asking me to do the bidirectional mapping. See, if you just have a look at it, so for the courses it is asking me to add many to one, but it should work without adding many to one. That is what I am trying to see here. Just give me a second. So for the courses what it is saying is, boss, you need to add Many to one is what it says. Courses dot set student of student session dot save. So it is doing a bidirectional mapping here. So let me try to add this bidirectional mapping and see if I will be able to run this. Let me add this bidirectional mapping here. So private student type student student, okay. So for this I am going to say, boss, there is a many to one. See, one thing, if you see one student is mapped to many courses, but many courses are mapped to one student if you see from the other end. Yes or no? From here if you see, one student is mapped to many courses, but many courses are given to one student. So that is the reason, if you see here, it is saying here, boss, you have to add many to one inside courses. You are mapping the students to courses, courses to students. What is it? Bidirectional mapping. It is called as bidirectional mapping. It is asking me to write the bidirectional mapping. Usually it should not happen, but it is expecting me to write bidirectional mapping. Let me go to the main method now. Let me try to run this program and see. Same problem. Foreign key constraint fails. See, what is the problem here? It's not updating the details, but sequences it is increasing. Just give me a second. It would just be a small annotation problem or similar to that. Control A, Control C. I'll do one thing, I'll only give this much. Courses I have set. Then, sorry? Courses.java. I've set it, man. So student.java, sorry, I guess I recopied the main method again. Student, sorry, many to, I've added it. Just now I did the same thing, no? So it's a bidirectional mapping directly is what I'm doing. See, I wanted to execute the unidirectional mapping and then get into bidirectional, but it is asking me to add bidirectional mapping directly. That is why I had added it. So, cannot add or update a child row of foreign key constraint fail indicates that you are trying to insert a course entity that references student entity via a foreign key SID that does not exist in the database at the time of insertion. You need to ensure that the course entities refer the student entities properly in your main method where c1.setStudent, okay, it is bidirectional mapping again. What it is doing is it has created courses. For each course it is adding the student. So it is asking for a bidirectional mapping, simple. So I will go back to my main method. Once every course is added, I will say here as c1.set, okay, I guess I need to create setters and getters for student. So right click resource sources, generate getters and setters for student. I will generate it, save it, go to the main method. Who is playing a game here? C1 dot set student, C2 dot set student, and C3 dot set student. Now I will just save it. I will try to rerun it now. The same problem, SQL integrity issue. What is happening in the database? Courses, a new column has got created as SID. See, I'll do one thing, maybe I'll see what is the problem, I'll rectify this problem tomorrow, and we will also get into something called as many-to-many mapping. So before I do the many-to-many mapping, tomorrow what we will do is we will take up one more example, try to solve it for, I'll not be doing one-to-one again, one-to-many unidirectional, one-to-many bidirectional. We will take up one more example, try to do it, and then we will get into many-to-many mapping, right? So anyways, it should be a problem of annotation somewhere. So I'll just check what is the problem and I'll rectify it in tomorrow's session, right? So for today I'll halt my session here. I'll see you in tomorrow's session, and we will have project session. So how all those who are not attending the project session, at least are you going through the videos? Yes? Yesterday's is not uploaded? It is uploaded, 34 minutes. Today morning it was uploaded? Okay. So I'll make sure, it will be uploaded right after the class, probably. But make sure at least, if you're not attending the project class also, how many of you are not attending project and up to date with project? 1, 2. You were anyways attending, no? Yesterday you were absent, that's all. What about others? Half, sir. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure, you will come back again saying, for some other month, I want to do projects, sir. Don't regret at a later stage. Make sure you start working right from now. Anyways, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.